7:14 on Thursday morning. I want to welcome to the Mountain Talk Studios Captain Jay Spalding, who's the new commander at our local Salvation Army. And where would we be, folks, without the Salvation Army and Mountain Home? Captain, welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's good. We've already got so much in common.
That's the way it works.
Leapers Fork, Tennessee.
You don't know where you're going to find somebody who knows Leapers Fork, Tennessee.
Leapers Fork, Tennessee. Wow. Well, welcome to Mountain Home, North Central Arkansas, Twin Lakes area. Good to have you.
We're glad to be here. We really are.
Settled in? Things going pretty well?
We're getting there. We've been here for about a month, but it seems like we've been out of town 3 weeks out of that month.
Yeah. So. I knew you had a medical emergency. You had your schedules before, and we commented on the air. We understand perfectly that things like that happen, but it's good to have you here. Tell us a little bit about Captain Jay Spalding, the family, and your involvement with Salvation Army.
Gosh, see, I've been a preacher since 2001, but my history with Salvation Army goes back a little bit further than that. I started with the Salvation Army Church when I was 11 years old. My father had lost his job. My mother was disabled. Knew there wasn't going to be much for Christmas, and a Salvation Army officer like myself showed up at our house with toys and with a food basket and said, we just want to tell you that we're here for you. A couple weeks after that, I ended up at the Salvation Army because they had gotten my father a job at the local shelter, and found my way to the summer camp. Accepted Jesus Christ there, and then I got my call to be an officer when I was 15. Met my beautiful wife. We got married when we were 18 and went to seminary, and then ended up in Houston, Texas of all places, from Kentucky to Texas. So,
was that a culture shock?
Absolutely. You're going from, I lived in Louisville, Kentucky, which was a big town, but you're going to almost 8 million people in Houston. And we lived in just a place that was so much different than what we were used to.
Well, I came through Kentucky a couple of times this year. Coming back from Tennessee, I caught up through Clarksville, Tennessee, and come across I-24 to Paducah, Kentucky. It's beautiful country, wide open. Looks like you've got all the room in the world in Kentucky. It's just beautiful up there.
Absolutely. But being in Houston, we live 27 miles away from our church. It takes an hour and a half to drive into work.
Wow.
Yeah, big difference. It was a big difference. My wife come in from a town of 50,000 where she didn't drive hardly at all before we got there, and then she's having to figure out every back road that there was so she didn't have to drive the interstate.
Culture shock. I grew up in St. Louis and then came here in 1972, and my high school graduating class had almost the same amount of people in it as the town of Mountain Home did when I moved there.
That's the opposite culture shock. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have you here. What's your ideas and thoughts? I know that we've worked well with past majors. We had Major Jeff Daniels and Major John Poff, all good friends. And I tell you what, between the two leaders, 09, I guess Jeff Daniel was still here when the ice storm hit. Mm-hmm. And I think at the time, County Judge Joe Bodenhammer was handling a lot of things. We'd have a lot of press conferences and stuff like that and just briefings of what was going on. But it was pretty devastating in 09 when the ice storm came through.
I hear that they've had some work with some disasters here, and I know that Major Johnny Poff was big in working disasters. It seems like that comes in our blood in the Salvation Army. We've done disasters all over. Being a part of Texas, we've dealt with hurricanes, and being in Oklahoma, Arkansas, we've done tornadoes. I served on the big Moore tornado that came through. Yeah. And so we've done a lot of disaster work, and I believe that disaster work has one of the greatest ministries you can have, because at that point you're at the point where you might not have anything, and all you have is God. And so this is the point that we can turn to God and say, okay, God, where do we go to next? And we can just give that a little bit of handout to help the people get to the next phase of their life.
Now, I'll try to say this gently but firmly. Why is it that we only think about helping others at Christmas? Now, I know the Salvation Army, you're there 24/7, 365 days a year, but yet the day after Thanksgiving, we'll see a few people ringing the bell in front of some of the stores around town. What can we do as a community to help support Salvation Army throughout the year?
Well, there's several ways, but I would say our most prominent way and easiest way for anybody to help right now is to donate to our thrift store. If you donate to our thrift store, we take those goods, we turn them around, we sell them back to the community, and we sell them at low prices so that people who don't have a lot can come in and purchase. But then everything that we sell out of that store goes back to help in our social services and our youth programs and all the things that we do throughout the year.
And you've got some very nice items there. I've seen
absolutely.
furniture and bedding, clothing, electronics.
Oh, absolutely. I had to pull my wife out of there yesterday because they had some vintage Coach purses in there. And I was like, no, you don't need anything else. So we had to get her out of there. And my son pulls me in there at least once a day to show what kind of new electronic or camera he's found. He's 10 years old, and I think I've spent more in our thrift store here in the last month than I had in 4 years in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So.
Well, I have to admit, I'm a record collector. That's my wintertime hobby, and there was a few albums. Well, I say a few. I think I dumped off about 700 albums over there about 6 months ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was that a force by somebody in your family to have to dump them off, or were you just ready to
I'm kind of getting rid of what I don't want and recollecting. I've started a Led Zeppelin and Bob Dylan collection, but I got rid of a lot of the other stuff that some of the smaller labels out of Chicago and St. Louis and stuff like that.
Oh, nice. And it amazes me to see how fast our records turn around over there. We have a big bins of records that sell for like 50 cents a piece. Some of those ones that are just, everybody has. But we'll have records for $5, $10, $15, and those records will turn around that are collectors. Anything from Michael Jackson to Bruce Springsteen, and those records turn around so fast.
Yeah, right now the big thing, probably the most sought after album is one called "Freewheelin'" by Bob Dylan.
Really?
Yeah, and there's a story behind it I won't get into. It's kind of lengthy, but keep your eye out.
We'll do.
Well, what else do we need to cover? Goodness, like I say, we remember the ice storm of '09, and then we had the tornado at Gassville. I mean, Salvation Army was there.
Well, we appreciate it. I mean, we love our disaster services. We just got out of our big camping season, so where we sit kids to camp all summer long. We have a young lady now who just went to camp in Texas for what we call TMI, which is a Territorial Music Institute, where she took just this week long of intensive brass training, where I believe she plays the cornet down there. But prior to that, she spent 5 weeks in Tahlequah of music training. So it's just great to have 5 weeks. And hopefully we're going to get her back. So she's been gone for a little bit over 6 weeks now. We'll get her back, and she'll help some of the kids at our church learn how to play instruments and learn how to move on in youth that come in through our youth program starting in the fall. But we have, down at this camp in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, we have a state-of-the-art ropes course. It has a 300-foot long zip line. It has a swing for life that has terrified me on more than one occasion. It goes up about 50 feet in the air and has 3 different levels of climbing that you can do on this ropes course. It's great. Huge swimming pools down there, 20-foot slides.
Really?
And some of these kids have never experienced anything like that. So for us to get to take kids down there is absolutely amazing.
And this is Tahlequah, Oklahoma?
Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Well, actually, it's right outside Tahlequah, a little town called Welling,
really?
Oklahoma. And it is one of the most beautiful areas you've ever been in. Sits right in Cherokee Nation. And this area is just gorgeous. And you take these kids down there who have never had an experience like this, might be coming from low income or poverty. And this is a time where they can get to be back into nature, to learn some unique things down there. It cost us, as an organization, about $200 to send a kid down there. That's what it costs. That's all their meals, all their lodging.
That's expensive, but that's good.
It is expensive, but you got to consider we have to give them 24-hour care.
Yeah. 3 meals a day.
3 meals a day. And you've got all of the things that are, all their activities that are going on. I mean, they do art classes, they do music classes, they do singing, and they go out on paddle boats. We have our own lake there at the camp. So they get to do a lot. And this camp is run all year long, so we use it all throughout the year. But
you mean it goes even through the fall?
Oh, absolutely. During the falls and spring breaks, what we end up doing is we have camps that are just for men. We have camps that are just for women. We have senior citizen camps. We have family camps that go down there. So it gets used quite a bit throughout the year. There's also other organizations will come in and rent the camp, and that's what actually keeps our cost a little bit lower than that. So
that helps.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds like fun.
It's a great thing. I mean, if it wasn't for a Salvation Army camp, I never would have known Jesus, because we're at a Salvation Army camp in Kentucky and Tennessee where I found Christ. So it's always a big push for me.
So it's a ministry on top of being fun.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we have our camps usually run from Monday to Friday, and our Fridays become our Sundays, where we actually have church down there for the kids. So every morning we have Bible devotion, we have Bible studies for them every day, and every night we have Vespers for them. Yeah, it's a lot of fun for them.
Sounds like they have a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
So let's see. We want to invite folks. We've got about 4.5 minutes before we take the news break. How can folks donate to your to the store?
Absolutely. First of all, they can either.
What do you take?
Well, gosh, it seems like we take everything and anything. Kenny does, our manager down there, does a great job of making sure that what's put out is good stuff. You can always bring it down to Highway 201 North, 131 Highway 201 North, or you can call our thrift store at 870-425-3335, and they can come pick it up for you.
Now, let's say that we have some clothing. Do we need to wash it and dry it and hang it before we bring it to you? Is that helpful, or what? Do you bring it in bags, boxes? How do you prefer?
If you wash it and dry it, that's awesome. Just so it's nice and clean for the next person that comes and gets it. You don't have to hang it up. You don't have to do anything like that. You can put it in boxes, bags, however you want to get it down there to us. And
put a few Downy sheets in there to keep it fresh.
Oh, that would be awesome. And we have wonderful ladies and gentlemen who sort through everything, who hang everything. So when you walk into our thrift store, you find it by every size that you want. You can go to each section of our store, whether it's women's, men's, children, and it's all sorted out just for you. So it makes it easy for the person who comes in.
Now, what things can you not take on a legal basis? Is there anything?
Just really anything to do with chemicals, like painting supplies and things that are busted and broken. I mean, obviously, we'll take whatever. But if they're at a point where you will not use them, if you found out, this fork is rusted, well, we're not going to be able to put it out there either. But we will take even things that have a little bit of damage to them, and the reason why is because people will come in and buy those and then repurpose them into other items. So if they've got nicks or scratches or little tears in them, that's still fine. Bring that down.
So if we have a lazy boy recliner we don't want, and maybe have a little bit of a tear in the arm or a little bit of wear on the arm.
Absolutely, yeah. Bring that in. I mean, it might not sell as high as some of our other items, but it will still sell, and each little bit goes back into to the ministry that we have at the Salvation Army.
And every little bit helps. What about upcoming volunteers for the Christmas season? I know we're less than 5 months away now.
I know. It seems like Christmas, we start thinking about it earlier and earlier every year. And there's multiple ways you can volunteer. We start in our Thanksgiving when we do our feeding program, and we have our Thanksgiving dinner. But then also throughout the Christmas season, we will always need help with angel tree volunteers. We will need help with our bell ringing. And then coming up soon, starting in the next couple of days, we'll be talking about our shoes, shirts, socks, and underwear and supplies donations to get kids started off for school for the right reasons.
Yeah, I forgot about that. And then, we've got the school supply issues, Yeah. I remember when my dad would, he'd take my school supply list back when I was in 4th and 5th and 6th grade. It'd be a pack of number 2 pencils, 24 crayons, and he'd spend about $2.35.
No, there's no way now.
Nowadays, it's $235.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
When my 4 boys said, "Oh yeah, let's go down by school supplies," we need this and this. Now wait a minute, this calculator's $99.95.
Yeah, it
like,
amazes me.
Wait a minute,
it amazes me. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take a little bit of time and just purchase some school supplies and give them out to these kids. I think last year
we helped. So how can we help you here at the radio stations?
Well, if you want to bring down school supplies to any of our Salvation Army locations, that's awesome. And then you can also come down and figure out how to make a monetary donation, because we'll be purchasing shoes for those people, socks for those people, underwear for those people, just to get them those basic needs so they can get started off. I mean, if you were a kid and you walked into school for the first day, do you want to be wearing the shoes that have the holes in them that you've been wearing them for the last year that might not even fit anymore, or do you want to go in with a new pair of shoes? So we're going to try to help them out, do some things like that.
Wow, that's awesome. We're visiting with Captain Jay Spalding. He's new to our area. Stop by and welcome him at the Salvation Army. We're coming up on the news break. Finally, give me 25 seconds worth of something here. I got to fill
25 seconds. Let's see. We want you to know that not only we are an organization, but we are a church who follows God every single day. And the reason why we do everything from social services to our thrift store and everything else in between is because God has called us to meet the needs of the less fortunate.
Amen to that. And you can hear the Salvation Army's Sunday morning message right here on Mountain Talk at 9 o'clock. And we'll talk more about that in the second half of the program. Right now, we've got the local news for you. More with Captain Jay Spalding of the Salvation Army right after this. .35, excuse the pause there. I had my headphones on backwards. And how can you get stereo headphones on backwards?
Yeah,
the right channel don't work.
That's right.
We're visiting with Captain Jay Spalding of the Salvation Army, and once again, we want to welcome him to our community. And we know the great help that Salvation Army is in the time of disaster, but we've been talking about kids camps, adult camps, the thrift store. I'm going to ask you the same question. Now, the governor sat right there in that same chair, and I've asked him, and then we've had senators and Congress people in here. You've got a genie in a bottle, and you get 3 wishes.
Genie in a bottle, I get 3 wishes.
And it's amazing what the governor and what the congressman can come up with, but the genie in the bottle, and you got 3 wishes for Salvation Army.
Salvation Army. I think I would take the first wish is what our founder's wife wanted, which would be the world for God. Very first wish, absolutely. After that, that we would get back to the Acts Church, which is where there is no poor among us, so that we share with one another. And the last one, Jubilee. The Jewish nation talks about the 7th year of Jubilee. And the experience that they have during those 7th years when they party and dance and feast, that's what we want, is Jubilee.
Did you ever think that you'd see a time, and I don't want to get off on the political side, I want to stay on the Christian moral side, where we'd be embracing same-sex marriage, and then what is really, and Captain, I have to admit, when I saw the first video about Planned Parenthood and the selling of body parts from the aborted children, that's just almost more than I can take.
It is hard to hear things like that. It seems like our world has changed so much in the last, just in the last 10 or 15 years, since I've been a pastor. What we try to do our best is just to stay directly out of the Bible. We preach directly what's in there. We make no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And I've asked this a million times, why are people afraid of the gospel of Christ? I've got a little sticker on the back of my vehicle out here that says Christ Follower. I got it in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And I've actually had people, I was down at the car wash one time, and this one guy looked at it, and his eyes got big, and he backed away from the vehicle, and he was scared of the sticker.
Mm-hmm. I think the reason why people are scared of the sticker, and scared of the gospel, for that matter, is if you truly are a follower of Jesus Christ, it should flip your life upside down. If you look at the rich young man who came to Christ and he says, I've been following your laws forever and ever. What do I need to do?
This is where he asked him to give up his riches?
Give up your riches. Well, when you hold the thing that you hold most dear to you and God tells you to give that up to follow him, that's a hard deal to do. That's for anybody, no matter if God says whatever you hold most dear, it shouldn't be more dear than I am. So whether that's family, whether that's friends, that's riches, that's your car, or whatever it is, if you put any of those things above God, you can follow his laws all day long. And you can do everything to a T. I mean, the Pharisees and the Sadducees did that. And they even made up their own laws to follow in between there as well. But if they weren't living a life that was approved by God, then what does it matter? You have to have a life that's flipped upside down, and the gospel message will do that to you every time.
What were your thoughts in September 2001 when you first heard that the airplanes had hit the Twin Towers? I know that was 14 years ago.
Terrified. We were at our very first church in Houston, Texas, which at that point, Houston they went on big alert. I mean, we have Pasadena, Texas, which has tons of petroleum and oil refineries all around. And me and my wife, we were sitting in our church, and we were actually in the midst of, I just got back from a Toastmasters meeting. I went and picked her up, and we were coming to church, and we were in the midst of planning a big revival for that next day at our church. And we thought, should we cancel it in the midst of all of these things going on? And we thought, no, why do we let someone else determine how we are going to spread the gospel? And so we decided to go ahead with our program the next day, and we did. And we had a gentleman we had two young boys. They were about 15 at the time. They brought one of their friends, and that friend today, he is in seminary. He is getting ready to become a minister in June. And so I always thought, if we would have let that cancel what we were doing, would that child ever found God? Would he have ever gotten his calling? And something that destroyed the lives of so many, it could have destroyed another life just by something that it stopped, even so far away.
I remember when one of the very few times I was glued to the TV set, but even Jay Leno opened a show with no music and just said, this is not a happy time, but we got to go on. But then I think it was, I believe that happened on a Tuesday, and I think by Thursday or Friday, the president was GW at the time. Of course, he had a bulletproof vest on. He threw out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium. This is before they replaced Yankee Stadium. And the whole intent was, okay, we're not going to let this stop our lifestyle.
And you can't. I mean, if you let things stop, that's when they truly win, I guess. Because they've disrupted your way of life. And we don't want that. We continue to chug on. And I think America has done that time and time again.
Sure.
How many people have come and tried to stop their way of life and stop the freedoms that we have.
The newscast at the time said, they thought that if they knocked down the buildings, the Pentagon, and then wherever the other plane was heading for that crashed in Pennsylvania, that would cause havoc on the stock market. They closed everything down. And thank goodness for good leadership where we didn't panic.
Absolutely. It's all about leadership. We talked about leadership the other day, that to have good leadership, you have to have voluntary sacrifice. And I think that we have that, especially with the way our world is set up. We have good young men and women who say, I will voluntarily sacrifice myself so that others can have that freedom.
Have you had a chance to meet Car Emanuel, Chief of Police, and Sheriff John Montgomery yet?
Not yet. I haven't been in town long enough.
Yeah.
I really need to be.
Well, you're going to be impressed. We got some fine law enforcement people. They've got great departments. And the reason I'm bringing that up is the fact that when the tornado hit Gassville, I think it was the same year as the ice storm. But so many volunteers came out, and here's what actually happened. Sheriff Montgomery's people and, of course, the city's police departments were helping out, but other sheriff departments were coming in from Boone County, Marion County, and other counties, said, we want to give you guys some relief, and they would help police the area throughout the disaster. But people were coming with chainsaws, they're coming with pickup trucks, they're coming with whatever needed. So now, hypothetically, in the event of a disaster, and of course I don't want to be doom and gloom here, but we've got to be prepared. What would be the chain of command? Would you have to call the sheriff, or do you wait for the sheriff to call you? How does the chain of command come out in the event of a disaster where the Salvation Army is needed?
Well, we always want to work well with our law enforcement and with the local government and where they need our help. But we are also our own entity. So if someone needs help, whether it's, there's a local fire, we're going to go and help and serve. And then we'll check with them. But if they hear of something that is happening before us, because a lot of times, I might not get the news of something that's happened in Gassville or in even one of our surrounding counties, and they'll give us a call since we're the local Salvation Army and say, hey, can you come out and serve? Can you bring your canteen out? Can you just serve some coffee to those, or can you, bring out a full load and actually do meals for us? And we're willing to help and serve in any of those ways.
Now, are you restricted by state lines? Can you reach out and help folks across state line in Missouri? I think from this point we're 15 miles from the line.
We are restricted by state lines in the way that, if there is another Salvation Army that can come, especially like for Springfield or Branson, into those areas can come down. But that doesn't mean that we don't go and serve. When the big tornado hit Joplin, Missouri, we were actually in Muskogee at the time, but the people from Tulsa and Oklahoma City took, I think we had 8 canteens that went up and served in Joplin, Missouri. And that, for us, is a big deal because when you hit into Missouri, you're in the central territory of the Salvation Army now instead of the southern territory of the Salvation Army. So it's a big jump for us. But we were able to do that because we were the closest other Salvation Armies other than Joplin. So it was excitement to go and serve with our brothers and sisters in Christ up there.
And my son, part of a youth group that went up there one time, they spent a Saturday up there to help clean up. And I asked him about it. He says, when you see it on TV, you think, wow, that's awful. But to be sitting there and to see that type of devastation, I mean,
it was a huge devastation. We were actually on the road in Joplin when it happened. We were traveling through. We had got to the Oklahoma-Missouri state line. We were heading up to Kentucky, and weather was getting bad, so we pulled over in a little pilot gas station. And there was a Wendy's.
You were in the area?
We were in the area. We were in Joplin. And I've dealt with a lot of storms, a lot of hurricanes, a lot of tornadoes, and so I didn't pay it much attention. There's some hail, some bad winds. We'll pull over. We were sitting there and trying to enjoy our meal, and everybody else was going a little crazy, and we didn't quite understand. And then finally we got some local news what was going on, and we paused and wanted to make sure that everything was okay for us as well as the people that were around us. We got back on the road in Joplin. We didn't go through the main city part. We were just on the highway portion there.
You're on I-44?
On I-44, we saw the hospital and the devastation that had happened there. And from there to the time that we got out of Joplin, we counted 18 semis that were turned over on their side. Where they had pulled over on the side of the road, but the wind that had come through just on the interstate had knocked them over. And when we came back through, we saw the devastation, and then people just started to come up and help. It's amazing to see where that town was, what happened to it, and where it's gone just now in the last 5.5
years?
Yeah, 5 years ago at us. And I mean, that city is just completely rebuilt, and the people there have come together amazing. It always seems during those time of disasters, that's when the people can really come together and bond together as a group and help out.
Why does it take disasters to bring people together? You look at 9/11, you look at the Joplin tornado, I look at Gassville. I went out there to help one Saturday afternoon. I felt I needed to help, and I helped some folks work on their mobile home.
I think that is the part in our Christian nature, especially. It's when we see the person in need. That's when, I've got to go help. And there's also that something inside of us that when we do something for others, it's when we feel good. William Booth said he was sending out a message to all of his officers throughout the whole world, and he was a little bit of a cheapskate, which I'm excited about. And he was going to send out a telegram to everybody, and he said, well, it costs this much per word. And so he said, I'll send out one word to everybody, and that's others. Mm-hmm. And it's about serving others. Our motto in the Salvation Army is heart to God and hand to man. It's because we've given our heart to God that we want to give our hand to man. And I believe that's true for every Christian, that when you completely give your heart over to God, then you want to give your hand out to other people.
A lot of times I'll bring to the point when we're doing the program here, and it's the 25th of the month. I couldn't do it in July because that was on a Saturday. But say, for instance, let's see, in August 25th will be on a Tuesday. That'll be 4 months from Christmas. December 25th, our attitude is totally different from August 25th, July 25th, April 25th. Why don't we carry, or how come we don't carry off that, or carry with us that true spirit of giving and feeling good at Christmas that we get, that we should have in April, May, June, July? You know what I'm trying to say here?
Absolutely. I think one of the reasons why we give so much during those seasons, it sounds bad, but we almost feel guilty of how much else we're spending on ourselves or on others, our family. And we think, oh man, we just spent and we bought these new pair of shoes for this person, this, and then we think about, am I really helping other people? And that's when it hits us the hardest. And we go out and we say, I want to help out. But it's that spirit of Christmas that you're right, we should have all the time, and where we're going out and we are making sure the less fortunate is taken care of. I always joke around with other pastors. On Thanksgiving, I have a lot of volunteers. I wish we had the same amount of volunteers on the day after Thanksgiving and the day after that. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get them on the day after Thanksgiving. That's Black Friday. Everybody's out shopping, So, but if we could have as many volunteers as we have during the Christmas season throughout the rest of the year, we wouldn't need as many people to work and to do things like that. Or you could help out your fellow brother and sister without even being having these larger organizations to have to do it for us.
We're visiting with Captain Jay Spalding of the Salvation Army. He's new to town. Stop by and welcome him and his family. Time for a quick break. We'll close out the show with more with Captain Spalding right after this. 7:52. We're continuing our discussion with Captain Jay Spalding, new to the Salvation Army here in Mountain Home. And once again, welcome. What can we do to help? We're here to help you serve.
First of all, we would take your prayers. Moving a family, which we do in the Salvation Army, we know it's part of our job, part of our of who we are, we will definitely take your prayers. This is our fifth corps, I believe, that we've been at, the 5th Salvation Army. So we love to have your prayers. We have a 10-year-old boy and a 19-month-old boy. So it's a big difference for them to leave all their friends and leave all their grandmas and adopted family from our last church to come here. So please pray for our family that we would just be well
making that adjustment.
Absolutely. Our son is excited about going into the 4th grade and getting into.
You're going to love the schools.
Yeah,
right here at Mountain Home.
Right here at Mountain Home. He saw his the 4th grade intermediate school, and he's excited about that. He's already been talking to all of his friends, saying, "I'm in intermediate now. I'm no longer at elementary school." So he's doing a little bit. Doing a little bit of bragging there. But then after that, most of all, we would love to have you help in so many different ways in the Salvation Army. But as a Christian, I ask that you would just find a way to serve, no matter that's in your local church or whatever organization that is. Find a way to get out and serve, because if we live that selfish lifestyle, then we're getting all that we want right here on earth.
And you'll probably meet some of the Knights of Columbus at the local Catholic church over at St. Peter's. They have a Paul Bunyan breakfast about once a quarter. It's all you can eat for like $7, $8. And then they're always cooking brats down here at the downtown Harps location.
Oh, so you're speaking to my heart. I love to eat.
Oh, I'm
a big boy.
Yeah.
And I love the all-you-can-eats because I make sure that I get my money's worth.
Oh, I tell you what, the Paul Bunyan breakfast, they'll give you pancakes, sausage, eggs, biscuits, gravy, coffee, tea, juice, and they support so many of the charities around here, you know. And I like to see people working together, you know.
Absolutely. It's not about, for me, it's never been about one organization, you know, whoever we can partner with, because, oh, yeah, we do certain things at the Salvation Army, but we can't do it all. And that's where other organizations and other churches come in. I always say that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. If there's someone who already does that, great. Let them do that so that they can do that well. We'll do what we do, and we try to do it well so that we can serve the community as a whole. I'd rather do a couple good things than everything mediocre.
Yeah. Wow.
So whatever we can do to help out.
Well, we're looking forward to your service here at the Salvation Army, and our best to your wife and kids. And I think school starts, the 17th, I think, of August.
Something like that.
Yeah, we got about 18, 19 days before school starts. And I know it's a transition period. Went through it myself a long time ago, but they're going to do good.
We hope so. And talking about school starting, you know, if anybody wants to help out bringing down school supplies, socks, underwear, things like that to get the kids started for school. Last year we helped a little bit over 100 kids.
Either gender?
Either gender. We're hoping to do the same this year. If you even go to some of your local stores, you'll see the school supply list. You just grab a couple of things off there and bring it down. Or you can bring down a monetary donation so that we can help buy these kids school supplies and shoes to get them started off in school in the right place.
We appreciate Captain Jay Spalding for being here today, and if you can, help out the Salvation Army any way possible. We appreciate them, and be sure to tune in at 9 o'clock this Sunday for the Sunday morning message with Jay Spalding with the Salvation Army. That wraps it up. Time for the Sean Handy Daily Update. See you tomorrow.